Don't go broke in a nursing home. I think that is everyone's fear. When I think about later in life, I'm going, am I ready financially? Well, you need professional help. You need elder advisors. With us now is Larry Weiss, the always entertaining Larry Weiss. He truly makes it a Feel-Good Friday. Larry, how are you?
Feel Good Friday.
Yep, you're feeling good?
I'm feeling good, baby.
You're looking sharp.
Thank you. Thank you. And we can thank Letha and Jean Luker of Luker Fashions in Hikes Point. I told them I've got to step up my game, and Letha and Jean Luker at Luker Fashions said bring it up. So it's all because of the Lukers. Thank you, Lukers of Louisville.
So you have personal wardrobe consultants. That's how big you've gotten now.
I shouldn't even be here. I have people standing in for me now.
Fancy Fulton Smith is going through this experience with me, and she is a realtor with RE/MAX. Fancy, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Tom.
All right, so let's start first of all, Larry, with how does this work? A realtor and you, who deals with your elder advisors.
Right.
So why is this important? This relationship with Fancy and her expertise.
Well, what's important is let's get some ground rules on today's show. Okay. On the outro, that's Showbiz Talk. On the outro, you said Larry Weiss is entertaining. I'm so much more than that, and I think the greater Louisville community knows that. And shame on you for trying to minimize me, because I'm also entertaining, informative, exuberant.
Yep, and very passionate about what you do.
I do. No.
Yeah. You bring excitement to a new level, don't you?
I
It's
do.
really hard to articulate, isn't it?
Well, and one of the reasons we're here, and we'll talk about Fancy in a moment because it's really not about you, is we have our workshops coming up Monday and Tuesday. And it gives families an opportunity to realize, because what Elder Advisors does is we help families transition their loved ones from their homes to home health care, assisted living, or if they're veterans or spouse of veterans, qualify for benefits using both financial and legal strategies to protect their assets so they don't go broke in a nursing home. We do the financial. Steve Langdon, McNeely Stevenson Law Firm, does the legal part. But there's an awful lot that can be done. Now, you look very inquisitive right now, and you're wondering, because we did a little preamble in the green room, which, of course, the community probably doesn't know. And I appreciate you not bringing up the fact that we briefly dated in high school, but we're professional now, and we don't need to talk about it anymore. Okay, that was then, this is now. So can we get back to the show?
Yeah, because my guess was, you were a senior and you were trying to date the sixth grader at the time, because that age differential is just way too much, Larry. Okay, back to the topic.
I give as good as I get. I deserve that, and it's okay.
But the financial and legal strategies are important. And, every time you've been on the show, you've given me information. I go, I had no idea.
Right.
And I think when folks go to your workshops, they're going to get a lot of that kind of information. It's like, I didn't know, and you can save them literally thousands of dollars.
Yes, because there are special exceptions for husbands and wives where we can protect all of the assets. For a single person, about half of the assets. And oftentimes, especially with a single person, they come in, and one of the biggest assets people have, are we ready for the prop? Wait a minute, Tammy's talking. Tammy, camera 3, okay, is the props. Okay, because this is our home, this is our castle. And what happens a lot of times is people are reluctant to sell the house, or they do it the wrong way. So Jeff Hurst in Kentucky sadly can't be here today. I don't want him on the set. He's too beautiful, and he's competition for me. So I'm a little more comfortable with Fancy Fulton at RE/MAX. But they've become my Medicaid realtors because they know what we need to do now. They've been through enough ALJ hearings with the law firm, Steve Langdon, McNeely Stevenson. What was that, Tammy? That was a shameless plug. Sorry. Steve Langdon, McNeely Stevenson Law Firm. Because we need the homes sold. And the reality is, oftentimes, we can work with the law firm, McNeely Stevenson Law Firm, Steve Langdon, and elder advisors on the financial to position the house in such a way so that the family or one of the children can keep the homes. Sometimes we can engineer a way to sell the home to the child, or we can keep it out of the strategies that we do with both elder advisors.
I see. So it is a special kind of scenario, Fancy, when someone is ready to kind of, as you said, make that transition to senior living, and they want to sell their home. So let's talk about some of those strategies. When you're talking to someone who maybe was referred to you by Larry, what are the differences? What are the nuances that make that situation different?
Well, first of all, there is a lot of feelings involved. So you have to be very, very careful. This is maybe their childhood home. They really don't want to sell it. Mom and Dad doesn't want to sell it. They're sick. This was a forced issue. And the market value has to be there. We can't just give it away. Medicaid will look at that. There's a lot of inside, behind-the-scenes things to do.
So maximize the value, and I know that is critical. So do they have to sell the home? What kind of scenarios are there, Larry, where they do not have to sell the home? Because as she said, there's feelings involved, there's personal attachment there. Tell me about that.
Well, there's a number of exemptions that on the law firm side they can do for certain children in certain cases. Also, if there's enough assets there, we may be able to what we call wash out the gift by transferring the property. But sometimes we simply need to sell the home. And that's really why I defer to Fancy, because, you know, kind of the refrain I have with the Louisville viewers on your program, oh, by the way, my favorite number is 790. So anyway,
thank you.
Tammy,
Nice.
790.
Another shameless plug, but I like it.
I'm afraid I don't know what you're talking about, because it has a 7, and I love 7.
Okay.
790.
Okay.
So in any event, oftentimes we do need the home sold, because a lot of times the children or even the parents or the family member, they're kind of deer in the headlights. They don't know what to do, so we kind of have to give them direction. We kind of tell them we need it done. So the vast majority of the time, they don't have a realtor. They don't know who to call. So that's why I rely on Fancy. And then, as I've told you in all the shows, I want to be the dumbest person in the room. I surround myself with talent. Steve at the law firm, Fancy with the realtors, Jeff with the Kentucky Realtors, Rod from Moss, the CPAs. I can go on and on because they know what needs to be done, and I don't have to micromanage. Just like Jeff Hurst sent me an email this morning, we're closing on a property September 10th. What that tells me is I've got money to move now, so we stay on top of that with the family. And those are the type of things we talk about at the workshop this Monday night at Crittenden Drive at the Four Points by Sheraton at 6 o'clock, and then Tuesday morning at the Hampton in Clarksville. But what I really like with Fancy is she's not going to waste inane time with the family saying, well, we need to put baked cookies in the oven. We need it cleaned up, we need it emptied out, we need it sold, and she knows her people to make that happen.
Interesting. So, Kim, how does it work? Like you mentioned the fact that perhaps you could sell to one of your children. Mm-hmm. So, and you still want to maximize the value, obviously.
Right.
So, Fancy, I'll ask you, how does that work? Like they want to keep it in the family. The children are interested. You need to sell the home. How does it work?
Well, generally, the rule of thumb on that is they can have a 15% discount. So opposed to having to sell it at 100% value. Medicaid will allow, Larry, correct me.
Yeah, let me jump in there for a second. That's kind of an unofficial thing that the market variable could be about 10%, because it really, you know, an appraisal, I think, is an art, not a science. So it really comes down to opinion. So that's kind of where we work with on there. But often, because of the skill set that I bring to the table, is we're going to look at the PVA for the Kentucky viewers, a property valuation assessment, or our assessment in Indiana. Sometimes the attorney may decide, Steve Langdon, Neely Stevens Law Firm, thank you, Tammy, he'll work off of that. So we may not have to worry about the appraisal and stuff like that. So there's a number of variables that we bring to that. But Steve has the ability to back that up when we're doing Medicaid if the state says, well, why did you sell that house for $75,000? And Steve Langdon, the attorney, would say, well, you were charging $74,000 as far as an assessment for taxes, so let's not argue about it anymore. And then we'll work off of that. And then the family has the ability to work the financials that we do, which we don't have time to get into on television. That's why they're coming to the workshop, to learn that. But we're going to get it sold. We do it the correct way because Steve always discloses everything to the state.
So I like the fact that elder advisors, like you said, surround yourself with professionals, Steve or Fancy. So I'm curious, in these upcoming workshops that we're talking about, who will be present? Will you be there? Will Fancy be there? Will the attorney Steve be there?
Well, certainly Steve Langdon from Neely Stevens Law Firm. He's our guest speaker. He really is the point of the spear on this, because you always need an attorney involved. But in our point is we need the right attorney. Steve knows where the courthouse is. He's a former prosecutor in Clark County. He argues in federal and state court, both sides of the river. And that's really what you need. If you're going to try to protect your home, the cash, or what the families work for, you need an attorney that's not afraid to take no for an answer and keep pushing forward. Because most people, when they do this on their own, they submit an application, they're denied, and the family just throws their hands up. Well, I guess we have to sell the house and I'll spend down all of that money. That's often not the case. Or oftentimes I've had families come in and say, well, is pretty much the trifecta of what we're being told other attorneys are telling families. Buy a bigger house. Mm-hmm. That's the way you can exempt the asset. Well, Mr. Johnson does need a $400,000 mansion with 8 bathrooms to clean. You don't have to do that. So those are the things that we bring to the table. So Fancy has the real estate eyes on that to get it sold, or to allow the family to buy the property. Okay,
Fancy, so from what I understand, we talk real estate on this show often, so from what I understand, though, robust market and a good time to sell a home. So for folks who are in the situation that Larry's talking about, is this a good time?
Oh, absolutely. It's the perfect time. Best time in my over 20 years that it's been.
Really?
highest market, best market, it's a seller's market.
Yeah, it's a seller's market. It's all about supply and demand. There's not a lot out there, so if you own a home and you're interested in selling, and perhaps you're in a situation where mom and dad are ready to, make that transition, so now you're saying is a good time to get a hold of Elder Advisors.
Yep. Definitely.
All right. So again, let's talk about those workshops before we go to break real quickly. We'll put the information up on the screen. And again, Larry, if you would, what will be covered at these workshops? Why should folks attend?
Basically, the main structure is so you don't have to go broke in a nursing home. And Autumn, who couldn't be here because Fancy threatened to scratch her eyes out. I don't know what that's all about. But Autumn has said, the other part we need to really talk more about, and we'll do that on Monday. I think are you still having us back on Monday?
Yes.
Thank you. We're going to talk about pre-planning to avoid this type of crisis planning. Because what we've really discussed today is crisis planning. What do we do when the house is burning down? We can still protect the assets. But there's things that we do in pre-planning so you don't even have to deal with those type of things. But Mr. Langdon will go over the pre-planning for families that are in their 60s or 70s to avoid this from happening, or the crisis planning where mom is 78 or 85 and they're now going through $9,000 a month. We can protect those assets as well. All
right. Once again, Larry Weiss, Fancy Fulton Smith, Elder Advisors. We're going to have more information for you in the next segment, so keep it right here. It's Feel Good Friday. Larry,
I'm feeling good, Dave.
You're feeling good, aren't you?
Feeling good.
Fancy, you feeling good? Everybody's feeling good. You should be feeling good. We'll be right back on Wait 3 Listens.